going to be talking. They're going to see this, hopefully. Oh, let's get Grantson. I'm going to tell Grant we're going to come back later. Hey, Grant, we're going to start the part where you there, Grant?
Yeah, here.
So we're going to invite you back when we get to a little later in the show. We thought you'd call back a little bit later, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to bounce you. Come back in like 20 or so.
Okay, so leave and then dial back in.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm on it.
And I've got reverb. I'm going to kill it. There we go. Okay, Grant, I'll see you. Okay, when we are live and cleaning everything up. And if you're listening to us YouTube, because we are live right now, don't worry, we're letting you a little behind the curtain, obviously. And that's okay. I'm going to ask my fellow showmates to get the hell off their audio and mute their YouTube windows if they have them open. And I'm going to go tweet the location out so people can join us. And then we will get started. How you doing, Charge?
I'm doing well. I'm just navigating on over to YouTube here. So
you can comment on how awesome we are. Okay, let me see here.
All right.
Go here.
YouTube.
So if you're hearing us right now, we're going to edit this out later on the non-live replay. So feel free to assume that we're complete morons and we're taking our time here. Tweet this. Okay, people are coming in. Bring this up. Gonna bring this over here. And then how you feeling, Michael?
Pretty good. Pretty good, honestly. I'm glad I get to be a fan.
I know, it's weird, right? Well, we're all fans. We're all participants and fans and everything. You know, we all have different roles here.
I mean, there's a part of me that wishes that we could have done it because I really like the way I constructed the team. And I had a couple of guys that were going to join that would have been big time names. So, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful event. Let me see how this works. Okay. Yep. Okay, this is going to be interesting. I can draw on this too, right? Ooh, there we go. Give it a couple minutes. Got 5 watching. Hello, people. Stay on this feed. Okay, I think we're missing a guest, but we're going to introduce him. He will just join us. Charge, do you have his information somewhere to remind him to join us? Oh, never mind. Oh, Alex. Okay, we're not going to do this right now. Hang on.
Is he joining, or I sent Twitter? I can try email too.
Yeah.
I'll shoot an email.
Oh, here he is. Hang on. We're complete now. Okay. You guys warm? You guys ready to talk about this bracket? Pretty exciting day, right?
Oh, yeah.
I am.
Okay, we're going to just go ahead and move forward. And I think we're going to think, well, we'll give him a minute.
You said he was trying to jump in, technical
He's trying to jump in. He'll get in a second. If you're listening to the YouTube show, we're going to start like a minute late. Patience, guys. Patience. Again, big day. Lots of TBT news today. Very exciting stuff. The brackets here. We've got some very well-known. Oh, here we go. He's almost here. He'll figure it out. We're going to trust Matt to figure it out. That sounds dangerous. We're going to give it a shot anyway. Okay. You guys ready to start the show?
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We'll go ahead and do a quick start. I'll put my hand up, and we'll start the show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, it's Charge here, represent ZoomTheTBT, and we have our bracket reaction show. Obviously, the nice people at the tournament announced the official bracket day. Very exciting day. Some sad things, some good things. We're going right into it. We have some special guests. Charge, are you ready to start rocking?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you mentioned, reaction show today, TBT, 24 teams, but just shout out to the ESPN team. Those guys just did a tremendous job presenting the, I believe the quadrants, I believe what they're calling it. We're calling it pods, but tremendous job from the team in there. The insight, the analysis, the detail was fantastic. The folks on the TBT behind the scenes putting that together, just amazing show. So yeah, I'm ready to do this, and we got some great special guests, and I see Matt just got in, so perfect timing to introduce our guest.
Let's introduce our guests, actually. Let's do that now, in fact. So, with that in mind, first guest is Matt Sheldon Ed. Matt, welcome to the show.
Fellas, it's great to finally meet you guys.
Very exciting. Former GM and hopefully future GM of Ram Nation, 4 seasons as a GM, a 2-time quarterfinals, so 1 Super 16 run, 8-4 record. Very, very, very well known in the community. And also, Charge, who's our other guest?
Yeah, so Team 23, we got Mike Iliano. So Mike was a guest earlier in the year when his team was forming, but he's been involved with TBT for 5 seasons. So this is just going to be the second time in the 7 years that he won't be part of the show. But 2015 TBT finalist, so 2-point loss to Overseas Elite. So what could have been? What if Mike and Team 23 would have beat Overseas Elite that year? Does that dynasty happen? Do they reform? Do they not come back? But I guess you launched a dynasty, Mike, with that narrow loss. And, 9-5 TBT record, so a lot to be proud of there, and 7 most total wins in the TBT. So I appreciate both you guys jumping on. We really value your opinions as you have a lot of experience as GMs. You know these teams very, very well. You've competed against them. You competed in, as far as players and recruiting. And so looking forward to your expertise today on the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
With that in mind, let's get right into it. So we've got our brackets, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about where they go, except Charge, I think it's a good time to mention some people have talked about teams that have been missed. Can you remind me how many teams that we missed?
0. 24 for 24. So that is, like I said, pretty big accomplishment for Peter coming through and nailing them all. And we had 7 of them right on the money, exact seed lines. We had another 12 that were just plus or minus 1. And you can see on this slide how close we were for Pod A. And there was just 5 teams that we were plus or minus 2 seed lines on. And one of those was Hines, which we did not know, obviously, before publication that they were going to be without Hines and Calais. So we would have been pretty darn close if we had that information. So, appreciate your work on that with me, Hainer, and feel pretty good.
That was pretty much all you, to be honest with you. But I'm just here to be a pretty face, or not so pretty face. But let's get into the brackets in these games, because I think we're starting off with a really great matchup. But one of my favorites. I am an Illinois alum, so seeing an alumni team based around that with House of Pain against one of my real favorite teams is a team I'm really high on, maybe the highest in this conversation. War Tampa. I think it's going to be a great game feeding into the defending champ. Michael, do you see anything here that really steps out of you of this matchup?
One guy, Walter Hodge. If you haven't seen Walter Hodge play, especially as he's gotten older, he's phenomenal. Like, if you remember when we made our run, Dobbin White was 34 years old. Walter Hodge.
I remember when we lost
so
Michael's.
I think he's the sleeper player here.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead real quick as we pass it to the other side to Charge, but I'm going to go ahead and flat out say it. Like, I'm calling my shot. I really think War Tampa will win that game against my alumni crew. And I also think they have a great shot to be Carmen's crew. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic. I'm starting off firing. I'm going right to Charge. Charge, what's the right side look like?
Yeah, so Red Scare, obviously, well-deserved number 8 seed. I think they should have been a little bit higher. I think this was one where we finessed the seeds just a little bit to get this crash course of Big X, Red Scare, Carmen's Crew. You got your Ohio teams there. You've got your Big Ten teams there. And so they're going to take on the winner of Big X and Jackson, Tennessee Underdogs. Both those teams have been a lot of conversation around both of those so far. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about Big X and maybe in a little more detail later, Matt. But what do you think about this side of the bracket and Pod A as a whole?
Was that one question was for me?
Yeah.
Is it Matt? Personally, I think this pod in particular is really set up for Carmen's Crew, in my opinion, for almost an easy trip to get, to the Final Four. I only see one team that I think can come close to them, and I think that's Red Scare. But I mean, Carmen looked great last year against them. I like Red Scare, mostly Dayton. They all know how to play together. But I think they really, that number 1 seed, they were gifted a nice road. The House of Pain War Tampa matchup. I love what Tampa has done. We played them when they were Tampa 2020 2 years ago in Richmond, and they've done a great job building that team. I'm not high on Big X if anyone follows my TBT thing. I think they can be good. I love their front court, but I just think they need more guards. And Jackson, I mean, they're a weird team. They got to add some more players. I think they only have 7 on the website right now, but they scored 100 twice last year, and I think they beat a really good St. Mary's team. But I just think overall, I think Carmen's a heavy favorite in that pod.
I think I can see that, definitely. Go ahead, Charge.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Carmen's is I do not think Carmen's makes it out of this pod if they do not add anyone. And it must have been mentioned on the ESPN broadcast because a lot of people were tweeting about it afterwards and mentioning ESPN. But Trey Burke is rumored to be going to Carmen's Crew, which is kind of odd to get a Michigan guy. But it really kind of shows the strength of this 2014 field where, Carmen's Crew, who won it last year, going to dip outside the pool a little bit and even go to Michigan of all places to
cats and dogs living together. It's anarchy.
So stay tuned for that.
It's just really, really, really dirty. I mean, I love the thing about Barford being a one-man wrecking crew. He's done it before. He can do it again. I like Red Scare a lot. They're a real dangerous team. I think Tampa will beat Illinois, and I think Carmen's legs might. They're so good. They're so good. But I think without the home court advantage, maybe the legs of Tampa give them a chance. Mike, anything you want to add to this one? Or you want to move on to the next slide?
Actually, I kind of agree with Matt. I think that this of all the pods is probably the easiest pod, and it looks like it's set up to be a lot of Big Ten madness going on there. Maybe some overseeding, but I guess that they did it to get the matchups they wanted. But I agree. I think at the end of the day, Carmen's Crew finds a way through.
Enough. Okay, on to Pod B. And this is sort of a really interesting pod, I think, because you've got a team we're all very high on, the Golden Eagles, multiple deep runs, Diener, Bucks, a lot of really great scores, a lot of real talent. Against one of the more odd parts of the bracket, you've got CP3, a late ad, obviously a very talented roster around the NBA future Hall of Famer, with one of the real surprise teams, which we were correctly able to call, but kind of a shocker to have the Mid-American Unity in there. And this sort of feels like this game, and they're both proud teams. There's not a team in here that's not dangerous, but it feels like this team is going to just be an appetizer that the Eagles are going to feast on. Mike, is there something I'm missing there, or is it really what's going to happen?
I think you should give CP3's team a little more credit. They won 2 tough games last year, and if I'm not mistaken, if you go back to the game against Team Hines, they were winning going into the Elam ending before Mike James just kind of lost his mind and went unconscious. So they were a hair away from getting to the Final 8. So I wouldn't sleep on them.
Fair enough. And Shards, what do you have on the right? There's also a very dangerous side over there of a very underseeded team, I see.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting side. So Eberlein climbed up and grabbed that number 5 spot and got that first round bye. And if I knew Hines was going to be struggling with players at the time of our last bracketology, I definitely would have bumped Eberlein up to the number 8 line. It's one of those ones I was definitely surprised by the 5. We'll talk about that in a little bit of a later slide, but these guys are finalizing their roster right now. They're getting some good chemistry, and the way it's going this year, apparently we can call them an LSU alumni team because they have 3 guys, and I think that's the new rule for alumni teams, but we'll have to see what Matt does with it from a marketing standpoint. But they're going to take on the winner of 12 and 21, who's Team Brotherly Love and Stillwater. And I know, Matt, you're a big fan of Brotherly Love, so what are you seeing out of those guys, and what do you think of this pod?
Yeah, I mean, that was such an interesting second round matchup for me. I had Brotherly Love moving ahead. I think Stillwater, they're new to this. Brotherly Love, they obviously went on a run last year, but the season before when they were playing under Talladega Nights, they upset a really good Sicklerville team full of pros, Charles Jenkins, a bunch of guys like that. So I'm very interested to see how this rebuilt Eberline Drive team preps, for a Brotherly Love team that is a real team. They're gonna have real chemistry. Plus, they added Khalif Wyatt, who I love. That's a sneaky matchup for me. I actually have Brotherly Love pulling the upset. That's such a tricky just pod in general. I actually think that CP3 team could be a sleeper as well. Because I mean, Des Wells added to a team that almost beat Team Hines last year. So
Yeah,
I think you could get some of your, CP3 and Brotherly Love. I think those are 2 teams that could be double-digit seeds that could really sort of upset the bracket, real bracket busters.
Yeah, now this one's going to be fun to watch. Mid-American Unity, I do got to give those guys a shout out from Northeast Ohio. So looking forward to what Mike Perini and some of his Kent State guys do here. But Chris Evans was a really, really nice ad and a charge guy, so that makes it even cooler. Demetrius Treadwell, nice big man. So, congrats to them getting in. Like I said, they were one of the ones that wasn't on the radar for a while and then crept up the past couple of weeks. And looking forward to seeing my hometown guys playing TBT 2020.
I gotta add to that too. Got 2 former Ram Nation players on there with Chris Evans and Romeo Travis. So those are my guys, and they're hoopers, and they have some extremely experienced guys on that team. So they could pull some upsets too.
You said that though. I think you go into the thing because I don't think anybody questions the Mid-American Unity's talent, but I mean, you said experience. You said very experienced. The next step is an old folks home. Are they a little older of a roster? Like, can they be run? Can they be pressed? Can they be worked?
Yeah, they are. They are an older roster. But as an old head, it's going to be fun to watch. To answer your question, yeah, I think they probably could. But I mean, these guys are playing extremely high level ball right now.
Absolutely.
Still, so there nothing they will see will be new to them or surprise these guys.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mike, anything that we're missing here?
I'm friends with Matt Mitchell, Eberline Drive. He's a great guy. I think he's one of the better GMs in this event. Honestly, from what I hear about who they're going to have as a coach, I would be really excited. And personally, I think he'd be the best coach in the TBT. So if that pans out, then I would really, this is a team to worry about.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing too, and I also won't say who it is, but I'm hearing that that's the coaching thing was very interesting to me personally. I thought it was a fascinating concept of what I've heard. But this is a really interesting bracket because unlike the last one where we seem to have a disagreement about it being straight Carmen's crew, but there are clear higher and lower teams. This bracket has a lot of evenness. Like, even though there's some qualitative differences in the teams, it is a bracket you can see multiple teams coming out of, correct?
Oh, sure.
Which is funny because I think we all picked the same team, if memory serves. With that note, let's
the only thing disappointing about where the Eberline ended up falling is that there's not a lot of pathway until I believe it's the finals for them to take on Team ALS. So ALS that 6 seed this year, Eberline the 5 seed. They faced off the last 3 years, and Matt's got the best of ALS the last 2 years, and then I guess that would have been 2017 when ALS made the run, beat them. So that's probably one of the best matchups year in, year out of TBT. So unfortunately, unless they both make it to the finals, we're going to have to wait on that one a little bit.
And what I find interesting too. Go ahead. Go.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add something about Eberline Drive. You're talking about a team that is totally reconstructed. from 1 through 9, there's nobody that was brought back from the great teams they've had the last 2 years. So I guess the biggest question mark they're going to have is they're bringing in guys that don't understand what this event's about. It's not Europe. It's not the NBA. It's not the G League. It's its own entity. So I think that's the biggest thing with them right now.
Yeah. Now, the thing I also find interesting about this too is we talk about a little bit about the fact that this is an event. This is something where the fans want to show. It's a TV rating thing because it won't have a gate. So I'm surprised that you're looking at this team specifically here, Brotherly Love, and I'm surprised they're not playing number 3 Syracuse, because I'd love to see them try to pull it off again. And I'm surprised that they didn't make that matchup happen because the seed lines are so close. Am I the only person surprised there, or is?
Yeah, I thought that was a slam dunk. And I mean, if you didn't see the official selection show earlier today, Hayner would have just wowed you with those graphics and those little circles and little stuff. That was pretty impressive, Hayner. I like that.
Architects have iPads. It's a weird
Yeah,
thing.
no, I thought we were definitely on a crash course, Brotherly Love to Syracuse. I think that would have been just such an intriguing matchup. But, yeah, it didn't happen, and still some really intriguing matchups out there.
And Matt and Mike, I know you guys both approach it from well, Mike, you approach it more from sort of a pro circuit. Matt, you've been a GM of a college alumni team in Ram Nation. Stillwater Stars, they're an alumni team that has clear talent. Forte shooting, Nash, lots of talent, but they're a first-time alumni team. Is there a concern about the first-time team having the talent but still being able to blend to the event?
From my experience, I mean, if you watch the progression of Ram Nation, you saw we started off all alumni plus our guy Reggie Williams, who's like the brother of all these guys, basically. Mm-hmm. We had one grad transfer, as they call it, and then we just added more and more because you especially for my team, we faced overseas elite our first 3 years in it. You get sort of sick of banging your head against the wall, and you learn. Especially coming from a school like VCU, it's a mid-major school. You gotta go outside, and so I think. Are
they still a mid-major school? They strike me as more of a high mid-major. They're really a kind of
right. Not anymore.
Now, yeah.
Right, not anymore. I mean, the guys I could get, if our guys weren't hitting the NBA now, would be a totally different story. So VCU is not a traditional mid-major. But if you go back to when I'm first building this team and the guys I built it with, they were recruited to the CAA. So Oklahoma State, obviously, you're recruited to the Big 12. It's a different story. But sometimes I see the alumni teams that I love it. It's great that you can just pick your alumni. But I look at it and I'm like, that's not a recipe to win. Oftentimes, you got to get guys that you need, not just guys that wore your colors.
Because even Ohio State, which has the Carmen's crew, which had the defending champs, even though I think War Tampa can give them a game and maybe even beat them, there's no disrespect. They're still a fantastic squad, obviously. But even they had to fill outside because they have Alex Gibbs, the undersized center they got from a Division III school, to fill a need. So even the strong alumni bases like Ohio State are still going somewhat outside to get players.
For sure.
So, yeah, you have to blend, definitely. So, any other thoughts here? Should we go to the next pod? Let's hit it.
Let's keep going.
So this is a really interesting pod to me. And on the left, and I think a lot of us are really looking at this 15-8 game as teams that are properly seeded, but dangerous as all living hell. Like, I live in fear of Armored Athlete. They have loaded up their roster. That is a dangerous, dangerous roster. And they're going into a buzzsaw because Power of the Paul is physical. They have that sort of ACC football mentality. They're going to be very dangerous. And if you survive that absolute dogfight, that absolute war, what's your award? The 4-time champs of overseas elite. So, like, this left side of the bracket is just a disaster of pain. I mean, Mike, am I right there? Is it just going to be a complete no holds barred slugfest?
Absolutely. We've actually lost. I think of our 5 losses, we lost 1 game to Armored Athlete and 1 game to Power of the Paw. So I have a good idea of both of these teams. The Clemson team is not bad. Last year they were running with 6 guys. They beat us, and they really gave CP3 a tough game. I think if their guys show up and they're a little more organized, they could be in that game. It's just going to be really hard because AJ Mahar and those guys do such a great job. They're one of the staples of this tournament, and it's hard to pick against them.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. It really is this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Charles, what we got on the right? We got some really interesting storylines on the right, from famous boxers to the battle for the country roads. What do you got over there?
Yeah, well, just real quick on the left, how in the world were we talking about Armored Athlete as a bubble team just 2 weeks ago? I mean, that just kind of shows how quickly this thing was evolving right down at the end here. Some of the bigger alumni teams, we got word that we're dropping out, and those are some of the guys that we had against Armored Athlete, but they weren't sitting on their laurels. They go out and get Dominique Jones, they get Courtney Fortson, and just build a juggernaut over there. So I can't wait to see what these guys could do. But on the right, like I said, this is just insane to have Overseas Elite, the Money Team, and Armored Athlete all in the same pod. These are premier non-alumni teams, so they're going to be going at it. And then you stick kind of this Best Virginia, heard that, Battle for West Virginia in there. So this is going to be probably one of the more exciting brackets from just the gamesmanship perspective. I think the quality of play is going to be high level. The rivalry but with Best Virginia, heard that is going to be high level. TMT, I know a lot of people, and maybe Matt on our call joining us, very high on TMT. And, if they show up with the right players, and I think they have like 45 players on their squad right now, so they're going to need to reduce that a little bit. So why are you so high on TMT, Matt?
I mean, if you just look at the roster, it's a Euro League team, a fringe NBA team. I love it. Also, my guy Peyton Aldridge is on that squad. I love his game. I really wish Kyle Wiltshire was still with him, but I just think if you just look at that, especially when it had Wiltshire, I mean, from 1 to 5, everyone can hit threes, and you look at a team in your way like Overseas Elite, you'll have to beat. That's the kind of team that does it. Ram Nation, when we almost beat Overseas, we were up 10 on them in the second half, is because we couldn't miss from 3, and I think that's the kind of team you need. So I just think they got shooters everywhere. They have massive, extreme high-level experience going up to the NBA. I'm curious to see how they whittle down this roster, because I believe they're over the limit at the moment. But, I mean, they have such, they've got TBT experience too. So I like them because I think they're a smart team, shooters everywhere. And also, it's a new team. It's fun to root for those. So
Sure.
I kind of hitched my wagon to them early on, and I'm hoping not enough people do, so my fan payout will be larger.
Yeah, and they're actually featured on Inside TBT, the official podcast of the basketball tournament. So if you want to get to learn a little bit more about Jordan Crawford, obviously he's got the connections with Floyd Mayweather and what they have going on. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but definitely will, and the Charge guy as well. So even more reason they're 25% more likely to win based on that fact.
Cohesion's a question, though, right? New teams, and they're basically somewhat of a reconstruction for that team, obviously. But I mean, like, when you have a new team where the core is flipped over in the restructuring, much like you were talking about Mike with the Eberline Drive team being reconstructed, does the talent always blend, or can you have too many cooks in the kitchen?
Oh, you could always have too many cooks in the kitchen. It's basketball. I mean, that could happen to anybody. The question is, the GM, the coach, what is the mindset as a group? And, I mean, for me, I've noticed that when I've had good experiences in this tournament, it's the more unified we are. And the times I've had sour experiences in this tournament, we were less unified. So I guess it all depends on the players' personalities.
Yeah. And I mean, talking about unity too, because Overseas Elite always has sort of like, when you have alumni teams, like, or you have a cause or a brand, like you have alumni like the Heard That or Best Virginia, or you have a celebrity team. Overseas Elite's unifying ethos has been winning and cashing checks. They're about that paper. I mean, they're here to get paid. This is a straight fucking business trip. So my question is this. You're adding ISO Joe, NBA All-Star, a guy who's had a great career, a guy who's still, at I believe the age of 172, is a walking bucket. I mean, he will put points up. But is adding a guy like that, could it suddenly affect the winning chemistry the Overseas Elite has had?
I actually think more than that, it's nobody seems to want to talk about Overseas Elite without Kyle Fogg and Eric McCullum. And to me, without those two guys, it's just not the same team. It's a very good team and an elite team, but without those two guys, I think that's more of what's missing from them than just adding a Joe Johnson. I don't think the Joe Johnson factor is as big as losing those two.
You still got Kennedy. You still got Kane, though. You still got some real dogs. So like, I wouldn't bet against them, but you got a good point there. That's fair. I mean, Matt, what are you thinking here?
Well, I mean, I think the big thought I have on Overseas Elite as the guy who I guess we've played them more than anyone. I mean, we are the Buffalo Bills. We're like their Buffalo Bills. They beat us every year. But the thing that, just as a GM, I think they were like kind of one of the only Overseas Elites when they were first getting going and winning. By that, I mean, these are extremely high level European players that they're not worried about this alumni connection. And then what happened is you have Team Hines, you have the money team, you have a number of Overseas Elites now is what it is. And so it's just the competition has greatly increased. And so I think I think Fogg is huge. McCollum, those are huge losses. I mean, they ate us alive. But I mean, Joe Johnson, come on, I just think it's just about the competition. It got so much better around them. I mean, when you look at previous paths to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, there's total gimme games, especially now considering we know how that team was built. There's no chance a lot of these like teams made up of D2 players or whoever are really going to beat them. And so I just think that's the thing. The thing is just the field has just gotten so much better, and they're just not automatic anymore. That said, it's a coin flip for me between them and money team, and that I still think they can win it. But I'm curious to see how Joe Johnson one shows up and two approaches it. But I feel like everyone they plug in just kind of fits in and they do their thing. So they're proven to make that not a non-issue.
Yeah. I mean, I see a really bunch of dangerous teams here. And I think it's funny because the teams in this bracket, and they're all good, but the teams in this bracket that I think have the least chance of advancing are really that Best Virginia Herd that game. But it may be the most entertaining game from a pure one-shot thing, because there's going to be one side going balls to wall in defense, pressing, playing 94 feet, and one team where it's like if it stays in someone's hands for more than a second, it's going up. That game very well might be – they won't need a shot clock in that game on any level. There won't be a possession more than 10 seconds.
Well, I think that's I think that game has upset a lot of teams that wanted to get in too, because there are a lot of people that think that is why Herd is in, and I probably agree with them, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Herd's a good team. So and I think it's a good time to just mention that too. Like, if you're in this field, you do belong. It's not a question of if you belong or not, because every team here is good enough to be in the 24. The problem is there's like 40 teams that are going to be in the 24. And how do you call those last four spots? And we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth when we get to sort of the cut slide, because there's some teams that really belong in. And does it come at the back of a Herd that or an MAU? Is that what has to happen? But a really dangerous, heavily non-alumni pod. And we got one to go. And this is my favorite, actually, to talk about. And this is a pretty interesting bracket. There's some lovable teams, some interesting teams, some great graphics, and some dangerous squads. Hardfire and Metamaki is kind of an interesting Midwestern thing. I think both these teams are good. You get the Isaiah Austin fronted Hardfire. Metamaki, with all the Purdue alumni, pretty talented squad. But I think those teams, and they're both good. Let's be very clear. They're not bad. But I think Boeheim is going to probably make relatively short work of them. There's just too much shooting. Adding Leiden and Malachi Richardson to that team, which is already a perennial Super 16 quarterfinal 8 type team, is going to really advance them even further in the bracket. I think it's a fairly safe bet. Mike, am I understating this?
No, I think that's a fair assessment. Boeheim's Army has the best team that they've ever had in this tournament. The only thing that's going against them is that they're just not playing in front of fans. So they're just going to have to rely on their own energy. But to me, I just can't see them not winning that second game. Yeah,
and I think on their own energy, Eric Devendorf will probably spark plug them out. And he'll be surrounded by the best shooting squad of people he's ever had. On that, like, they're just going to run a lot of 1-4 high. They're going to have Leiden come out, set that screen, and spread it with like Richardson, Dante Green, and all that shooting. I mean, it's Gillian from long. they're going to have to play 5 out. It's going to be a nightmare to cover these guys. Speaking of nightmares to cover, guys, Charge, that right's got a few things that are tough to cover too.
That right side looks amazing to me. So I know somewhere in the comments we're talking about maybe giving Boeheims a little bit of an easier path, but that ALS team is just really, really good. I know you say I tease you about being the Diamond Stone fan club president, but I just love Casper Ware and his game and what he brings to this team. Tyrese Rice, the guard play is just going to be amazing. And we'll talk about them a little bit later in a little more detail because I may have them going very, very far in this tournament. So I'm going to save some of that thunder for there. But even after that, you've got Team Hines, which, Calais, no Calais, Hines, no Hines. This team is still going to be a really, really good team. And that was all the Twitter buzz this week as well. So we talked about that. And Hines, obviously a powerhouse team, but people want to throw them out because Kyle's not playing, but that's ridiculous to me. They have a great team. They deserve to be in. They're stacked. Going to be great. And, of course, my guys from Sideline Cancer. So here we are supporting Sideline Cancer tonight.
I recently moved, so I don't have mine. I was also given one by Billy Clapper. Thanks, Billy. But mine is in somewhere over there.
Somewhere in a box. Yeah, so, if you guys follow us, obviously, I'm just very much a fan of Sideline Cancer based on my personal situation. But every time we have one of these, I tell you how good this team is. It's just a team of good guys, unselfish guys, high-level pros leading their leagues, MVPs. They just had an artist recently. I know Billy's on the search for one more guy, and this is a team you cannot sleep on. So even though you see this Hines versus Sideline Cancer, obviously Hines is going to look a little better on paper, but there's some question marks around that roster and this Sideline team. Even if their best team shows up, you got to throw that 22 seed out the window because I think they're going to make some noise once again this year. So, Matt, what do you see on this pod? And
this pod is pretty tricky. Hines, again, even with the losses, the guys they added, it's ridiculous. I wish I could lose players and, add basically the 4 new guys they brought in, Ethan Hatt, I've got Denman, Peters I've been trying to get for a couple of years. Eric Griffin, he's got TBT experience, obviously can hoop. It's interesting. It's challenge or team challenge ALS. Tyrese Rice. I love that he's finally in this Richmond, Virginia native. So I'm curious to see how such a loaded team like that, how they will do, especially if Hines can get through that can match them talent for talent, in my opinion. But we'll have a game under their belt. That's a one case on this bracket where I like the team getting a warm up game, but it's brutal. Those round of 16 games and that are, I think, probably some of the funnest to watch. And I actually think Heartfire is such a sleeper. I'm assuming Homer Drew will be on the sidelines, but I like all the Baylor players they brought in. They got some shooters too, so I want to see how they get up over that zone. And maybe they could put a scare into Boeheims, but that's just a really, really tough pod.
I think that ALS Boeheims matchup, or the ALS Hines matchup, or excuse me, the Boeheim ALS or Boeheim Hines. I'll get there eventually. It's been a long day. I think that's a thing. I think what's really interesting too is I want to just touch on the fact that Sideline Cancer. I think we all agree Hines will probably win this game, but I think they'll know they were in a game. I fully expect Sideline to make them. I like ALS against Hines, not because I like ALS straight up against Hines, but Hines is going to go through a meat grinder just to get to ALS due to this bye situation. It's a good time to mention, do the byes really have a huge advantage in a short tournament? Mike, what do you think?
No. I actually agree with Matt. I think that playing the game and getting your legs under you, especially if you factor in the fact that guys haven't been playing because of the virus, I think playing that game is a huge advantage. Honestly, I think this is the toughest pod of them all, by far.
It's the flattest, right? Because all the teams are dangerous. There's no weak sisters. Everybody can probably overperform their seed. So they're all good teams, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Just to get Sideline as the 22nd seed after, they went into Wichita State in front of 10,000 Wichita State fans and sent them home. And now they're gonna go to Columbus in front of no fans.
And so maybe, yeah.
Right. And so that's going to be interesting to watch. A random note too, I saw that they shot 50-some% from 3 in the game they lost. So
Yeah,
they bring it even in the losses.
Sideline is what I like to call the house money team. You know, like they know they're the underdogs. They're playing with house money. Like, you know, there's more pressure on the other teams to beat them than there are on sidelines to beat these good teams. So you can't sleep on those guys. And Billy Clapper always does a great job.
Yeah, no, he really runs a professional program. And I think what's interesting about this bracket is we talk about reasons teams get in, marketability, talent, but also just straight professionalism. And a guy like Clapper runs a tight ship, runs a professional team. I think that's part of the reason, Michael, I'm sure you were one of the last teams cut because of the professionalism you run Team 23 with. So the community needs guys like that, like you, and also like Matt, to keep this alive. And I think it's great the sideline is going to have a chance to go up against a EuroLeague great bunch of pros and maybe make us all have a little bit of upset to watch. Might be fun. Okay, anything else we can talk about this slide, or should we start getting a little deeper into this? Now we've talked about the field in general. A little deeper?
A little deeper. Let's do it.
A little deeper. And actually, it's good time. We're going to talk about the teams that were out because we need to have this conversation. Because let's be true. Let's talk about this. There's 24 teams in. There's multiple ones that really needed to be in. This is a 64 team full tournament. It always happens, and we love it for that. It's been more than 64 before. They've been 72. They've had play-in weekends. They've had jamborees. And the need for basketball and the appetite among this community for this event has grown. So they take 80 teams that deserve to be in 64 and to cut them to maybe 40 or 35 deserve to be in 24 was just straight pain. And we actually have guest callers. We invite other guests in, and I think it's a great time to bring in one of the GMs. We have the GM coach of D2, Grant Leonard, who is going to join us now to talk about what it's like to be a standby team. We put alternates down, but the correct term is standby, or graphics team. Should have caught that. Grant, are you going to be here? Go ahead, Charge. Wait,
while you're getting Grant in, this is one of those ones. We're really happy for Jimmy V and D2. These guys really put together some great squads. Jimmy V, especially at the end, they were pushing hard and really going out and finding some players to bolster that roster, and so just really well deserved. And then on the other side, some of these names are just tough. I know Fort Wayne and Gale Nation were in the talks right down there to the end. I know Garrett, love what he does. This one pains me the most while we're talking about it. Sweet 16 the past 2 years. So this isn't a team that's kind of had some ups and downs and some blips only when they play the Canton Bulldogs, but that's a different story. But, they've been solid the past 2 years, and this is the best team they've ever put together, in my opinion. And that was probably the toughest one for me. And then Gale Nation, just a solid squad, too. I have a feeling that they're going to get a lot of calls to pull some of their guys over to other teams. So you got Grant ready, or you want us to keep talking?
Grant, are you here, Grant?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you fine, Grant. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. And we want to get your perspective, and thanks for coming on, because this is an interesting event because obviously in times of COVID, we're going to be testing. People are going to go there and have a certain number of tests. It's quite possible a team might get bounced for having a player test positive. At that point, how are you preparing your players, and how are you approaching this as an opportunity?
We're going to go into it like we're going to play in it. So we're going to go and have a 4-day training camp where we'll have multiple practices each day. Not try and kill their bodies, but more have stuff get in and build some continuity. And then we're going to travel up to Columbus and go into their quarantine and their kind of mini camp there. And I think we look at two ways. One, at worst, for a bunch of guys that have a season that should be upcoming, they're going to get 8 to 10 days of a lot of training. But at best, and I don't wish ill on anyone, we slide in someone's spot. And so we're just going to attack it like we're here to play and to win some games.
Can I ask you a logistical question real quick? Because this just occurred to me, and I don't know, and you may not know either. If a team tests positive, I assume they don't reseed the field. They would just slide you in wherever that team was, right?
100%. So if Carmen's crew tests positive, slide into the number 1 seed. So just saying like that, we could end up getting a bye, which would be crazy, but you can't control what happens and who tests positive, and I don't want anyone to test positive. That is not the goal. But I think that you've seen here just in the last few days, there's a ton of movement with teams, guys pulling out, and if a couple of teams have guys pull out, also that could be a way that a team loses their seed.
Yeah, I don't know if I heard it on the call today or not. Is there a first alternate and second alternate, Grant? Do you know who's next in line? Was it Jimmy V and you the way it was set up on the bracket, or is there something different there?
I don't know if they've designated it. I'm not going to worry about it either. You know what I mean? Like if they tap us and tell us to slide into a seed, that's what we'll do. But we're going to approach it like we're here to win a game.
It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. Michael and Matt, you guys have also experienced GMs. Grant's got a game, and you can see he's got the big upset of Bluegrass Boys, which Chris Foster's already mentioned on the chat. Wasn't really an upset. They were the better squad, which I think Grant would agree with. Have you ever had a situation? I mean, not close to this because COVID has just changed all of our lives, a financial thing. But like, is there even a scenario where you guys have had to like be prepared to play at a moment's notice for a strange reason? Either one, Matt, Mike, either one of you? Like anything even close to this?
You got a story, go ahead.
No, I have nothing on that one. That's all you, Mike.
I'm still crossing my fingers that, maybe they call me next week and I could definitely get the guys together. I know I could. I have the resources to do it. But I think it's a long shot. I think the two alternate teams, they deserve to be there. They're both well organized. I don't want to see anybody test positive, but my rational gut tells me it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I think it's going to definitely happen at some point.
Yeah, we're actually going to test our guys before even TBT tests it, so no one comes to training camp with a positive test.
And then they stick them like this long up your nose, like this, like all the way back to your skull or something.
I heard it is invasive, but I don't know exactly. But you don't wish that ill on anyone. But what we don't want to have happen is we have a training camp and then someone tests positive at training camp. I think that would be the worst thing. And so I think all of our players want to be safe first.
Yeah. Grant.
Yeah, there's no alternate to the alternate.
It's you,
Mike.
Mike.
What are they going to do in that scenario?
I think also, wasn't there one year, didn't the Vanderbilt alumni team drop out right before? I feel like teams have dropped out anyway.
Team 901 had to step up for one once too, yeah.
Yeah, both of those. 901 had to step in for somebody. I can't remember who they stepped in for, but Garrett from Fort Wayne had to step in for Team Rondo for sure. And so it's probably happened 2 or 3 times, I'm guessing. I know 2 for sure with 901 and in Fort Wayne. But yeah, they definitely had issues as when they were the Vanderbilt team as well.
Who stepped in for Rondo? Wasn't that?
That was Fort Wayne. That was Garrett.
Fort Wayne. Okay, yeah, okay, that's right. For some reason,
they made a nice run too. They were out the agony of defeat, and then they make a Sweet 16 run and on the out cut line this time. Painful, tough stuff.
That's kind of a prop bet. Do you guys think at least one of these alternate teams gets in if you had to put your money on it?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, I think the TBT people, and I think it's something that I think they really deserve a lot of respect for. And I think people are kind of getting lost when some of the teams are getting a little sore about not getting in, because like again, there's so many great teams. Like cutting this had to be a nightmare. I don't envy the committee who did this, but like there's more important problems. Like there still is a virus that's killing hundreds of people and maybe thousands of people again a day. So we just got to get through this. And I'm grateful for the chance to talk basketball as opposed to talk about the virus. But still, it impacts everything. I would think it would be a huge upset if the team didn't test positive. I think the odds are almost 100%.
A huge upset. No, I hope all the team. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I wanted to add that we have to remember, like I'm speaking from a GM that was probably just on the cut line. Mm-hmm. We have to remember that what TBT is offering us is really special. So if you're a GM and you feel snubbed right now, you have to remember that they're very organized. They know what they're doing. Just the fact that they have given us this gift and they're doing it during a pandemic, I think we got to cut them a little slack on, they made the choices based on what's best for TBT. Me personally, when I looked at it, I'm like, okay, I could see why they did some of the teams that they did. It makes total sense to me. So I just think sometimes, like if you're in that bitter mode right now, you have to remember what's being offered to us here.
And you have to remember that next year you can come back and win even more money, because the exposure the community is going to get right now of being the only sporting event that happens right now is just going to mean opportunities for everybody on this call, everybody in the community. It means the 2021 pot is going to get bigger. The exposure is going to get bigger. It's going to become a bigger event. We're going to build this as a community and as a brand into the premier summer event out of this tragedy. So there's a huge opportunity for the team. So if you're one of these teams on the slide, your presence is expected in 2020, and we want you to win some damn money. Like, your invites are in the mail.
Got it. Well, hey, Grant, what else? Any parting comments before we move on with the slides and get to some other guests?
Well, first, I just wanted to say that all the teams that didn't make it, and Michael, you're from Team 23, but the Fort Wayne guys, most people have been unbelievably gracious, and all I can tell you is for our guys, and I'm always just trying to be an advocate for our players. When you play Division II basketball, it's not the chosen path all the time. But all of our players have taken that path and become professional basketball players. And so if we take this path and we end up getting onto a seed line somehow, we're going to approach it the same way. Like, we got to work as hard as we can and try and shock the world. And I know Matt said earlier that, a team comprised of D2 guys couldn't beat some of those teams. But sometimes you walk into an arena like VCU and you beat them. You just never know. So, you just never know. But all you can do is play as hard as you can and be together and try and take good shots and really defend. And if you get that opportunity, you see what happens.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. On those notes, Grant, we're going to let you go. Thanks so much for coming on. Take care, and
I appreciate it.
Hope you have a great time out in Columbus.
Thanks, guys.
Take it easy, Grant.
Okay. And we're going to bring on one more guest who called in, and a friend of the pod, the GM of Iowa United. We're going to bring on Matt Crawford, one of the favorites and one of the toughest cuts. This was a really, really tough cut. At one point earlier in the process, we had them as a 1 seed. I had them as the 2, charging them 1. We tied on a 1 in Wichita, and they had a loaded squad with guys like Royce White, some real talent. So they were right on the cut line. And with that note, we welcome Matt Crawford to the show. Matt, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Doing well. So yeah, then we talked kind of about the snubs that were kind of, as it started getting whittled down a little bit, we kind of knew where the direction was going. But when you see the team, Washington's of the world, Florida TNT, Iowa United, these are the ones that I think a lot of people were doing a little more head scratching on as, some large teams, some organized teams, some highly talented teams that, were bypassed for some other choices. So Matt, I appreciate you jumping on, just kind of talking about the process and kind of how you landed here. What are your thoughts on the process?
I think all the teams that get snubbed, we're going to question the process a little bit, just from the fact that there's no real clear answer why some of us didn't get in. And I think that would help. Hey, say it's your roster just wasn't good enough. Okay, well, I can fix that. So I think that's kind of where some of that feeling of the process gets lost on us a little bit, that sometimes you just don't know why you didn't make it. But we get it. We understand TBT's spot. They've got a narrative to sell. They've got to get eyeballs on TV. And so that's the 24 they went with, and that we just have to live with it. That's the way it goes.
I'm going to circle this match just so you see what I'm talking about here. You see on the screen where it says best moment coming in 2021. You see that, right? You see it says 2021.
Yep, I know.
So your presence is expected next year. We fully expect to see you again. Were any of your players able to find new homes?
Yeah, and that's the thing. We got quite a few calls on just about everybody, for the most part. Dom is going to go over to House of Pain. We got some calls about Tyrus McGee. Tyrus wants to kind of stay home with his family. I think he's kind of enjoying the time off. And sometimes you just got to be honest with some of these teams and go, I don't think that's going to be a good fit for you. We're pretty honest with everybody that does call. But yeah, we found a home for a couple, or for at least Mike.
Both Vince and I have been trying to find a home for former Memphis player and former Charge guard Chris Crawford. Actually, multiple teams. So if you're listening, Chris, we've been trying to find you a ride in a few calls.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, before we let you go, I know we talked a little bit before the show because you're very punctual. And I know you've done a little bit of research on the brackets. Obviously, you're kind of putting on the fan hat now, the GM hat. You'll determine what happens in 2020. But what's a couple teams that kind of catching your attention right now?
I like Marquette's path. I like the Golden Eagles path a little bit. I love the guys over at Eberline, but that you talked about it earlier, that transition where you're turning over that entire roster and they don't have that first round game. Are they going to, they're only going to have one game under the belt before they go see a really, really veteran, talented, cohesive Golden Eagle team. And then the bottom, you guys disagreed a little bit, but I really like Sideline Cancer's path. Getting Hines kind of in flux. And then you get a, challenge ALS. And then after that, it's, Boeheim's Army, who could get a run from Heartfire, kind of like what you talked about. So those are a couple of the ones that I kind of like in those two brackets. And I don't know if you touched on, but we talked about it a little bit. The one I don't like, oh my God, that Brotherly Love Stillwater pod. Because whoever gets out of there, first of all, that's a brutal game.
Yes.
And then
physical.
And then you get Eberline Drive, and then you get Marquette. And then if seeds hold up, then you get Carmen's Crew. That's a tough road. That's a really tough road.
Yeah, it pretty much is brutal. Hey, Matt, just you're on the air. So two things. We're going to be doing. We've been joking about this Las Vegas TBT 2020 networking thing. We're going to make that happen. You're going to be a keynote speaker on
that'd be cool.
Organization. Yeah. We're going to make that happen. And can you just commit to say that Iowa United will definitely be putting their hat in the ring, at least probably in 2021, just for my own notification?
I can't say that. I can't say that we won't be back. There's a
lot
of options right now.
There's a good chance you'll be returning, correct? In some capacity.
In some capacity, there's a good chance.
I'll take one and get on that note. Matt, always a friend of the pod. Please don't be a stranger. We're going to need guest analysts during all this coverage. We'd love your help.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
On that, Matt. See you, Matt.
Take care, Matt.
Later, Matt.
Okay, and we got one more call on this slide because we have the bubble was kind of where we lived. Most of our reviews were right around here. And the perspective of the alternates is interesting. So with one more person coming on, we've got Alex Newman coming on. Talking Jimmy V. That's always an interesting thing. Get him on. Alex, you here?
Hey guys, my camera's not on right now.
Yeah, your camera's not on, but we know what you look like for the most part.
There we go.
There you go. What's up, Alex?
Taking business.
How are you guys?
So is Vinny going to beat us up? We didn't do it, I swear.
He might. He definitely might.
I think me and Vinny worked it out. We worked it out. I had you guys in before the Mid-American Unity news came out. I was there. I was. You guys were making moves, and everything I saw online and all these big free agent acquisitions, I'm like, man, Jimmy V must be talking to someone. They're in. And then as soon as I heard Mid-American, I had to bounce you. So I think me and Vinny are in a much better place now.
Yeah, Vinny's not someone you want to cross. Just
no. I live in fear. I live in drastic fear of Vinny. So same sort of brief question we had for the D2 guys. How are you prepping for this? Like, do you know if is there an alt 1? Is there an alt 2? How are you preparing your squad? How are you training him? Like, how weird is it to be on deck?
Yeah, it's definitely a little weird. We're going into it as if we're going to play. Now it's obviously tough because we don't know who the opponent's going to be. I think it was a tough sell to our guys. I was at least a little nervous in the beginning, like how committed were we going to be with the chance that we might show up for a week and then just go home. But we have a group of guys who really are excited and want to play, and they're bought in. And worst case scenario, and I think Grant said this as well, but worst case scenario, we show up for a week and we have a really elite training camp with a few Euro leaguers and ex-NBA guys, some G leaguers, and we go home. We got a week of practice in and we got some gear and we go home. That's worst case scenario, but we're going into it as if we're going to play. It's a tough situation. We obviously don't want people testing positive for coronavirus.
No.
But I think if you just look around like the country and like look what's happening with college programs, these guys are going back and testing positive right away, and then they're shutting it down. So I think the chances are probably greater than they are that we're going to end up playing. So we're just going to prepare as if we're playing a game.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So you said it was a tough sell. Did you guys actually have any did you guys lose any players to other teams in the interim?
So we lost Tillman to Red Scare, which was a tough loss. Obviously, he's a really good player. But we were able to make some moves. We added Marquise Towns from Loyola the other day. So we're good. Still have a full team. Most of our guys were all in as soon as it came up, even with the alternate. So our guys are good to go and they're ready to be there.
Can you speak to the fact that Rutgers had the best season they pretty much ever had, and then COVID killed the March Madness, and then you have this loaded team that would be a shoo-in at 64, and now you're an alternate. Is this just further proof that New Jersey is a cursed state?
Well, I don't. You guys probably aren't familiar with the RU screw, but it's something that all Rutgers alumni know of. That just nothing good happens to Rutgers. So this is just the latest example of the RU screw. Tournament gets canceled, and then we're the 25th team in a 24-team tournament. So yeah,
Alex, I lived in Edison, New Jersey for 25 years.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you're a Rutgers guy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you know
it's
about
sad.
the RU
I know.
Pictured here. I have a map of New Jersey right here. Ready? It's trash can. See right here. This is a map of New Jersey. I'm actually kidding. No, New Jersey is great.
You're trying to get the Jimmy V guys to like you.
It's a New York, New Jersey thing. Actually, it's funny. New Jersey gets a terrible rap. It's a wonderful place. The reason everybody in New York gives New Jersey crap is literally the part we see basically functions as our trash can. The rest of the state is fantastic. Like if you've ever been like outside, like the shore is beautiful. You ever go down to what do you call it? We're getting off topic too. I'm rambling now. Like Cape May, Alex.
I'm actually down the shore now. I'm down in Margate. It's near Atlantic City.
Well, see, now I'm jealous, and now I'm off topic. Charge, reel me in, Charge. Get back.
All right, Alex, we appreciate you jumping on. Like I said, the alternate thing, something that's very intriguing this year. I appreciate you and Grant from D2 jumping on, and it's one of those ones. Sounds like you guys both have your heads in a great space, and if you guys are called on to play, you're going to make the most of it.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you calling in.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take care.
Okay. Thanks, man. Okay, so let's go into a little bit more into depth about what's happening with.
Are we not going to talk about Florida TNT?
No, about what?
I just glossed over that and included them with Iowa while Hayner's trying to get his thoughts together.
Well, I try to fix the slide. Yeah,
we'll let you open up that sore again, Mike.
I just want to say this. I've done this event, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the most talented paper team I have ever seen. So I'm like kind of like jaw dropped that they're not in. I'm sure a lot of people are. I thought Terry used an awesome job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they had their reasons. I'm just curious about what the thinking was.
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, and that's why I really counsel teams not to get too upset, because like, look at the slide. This slide is not a cut list. This slide is an Elite 8 list. That's what this is.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. Like to have this few teams. So, and pour one out, Michael. You're on the list here. 9-5. A huge number of wins.
I think when I was calculating the 24 teams in the tournament, there were only like 5 or 6 that have as many wins or more than us. So that's a hard pill to swallow. But at the same time, we were really not good the last 2 years. And I think it caught up with us.
Yeah. It happens.
Hey,
it happens.
I know you'll be back next year, though. So
yeah, you're a
you got
lifer.
6 teams ahead of you.
Yeah, you're a lifer. Okay. We're going to a little bit deeper, talk about some superlatives real quick. So this is just sort of a fun thing. This is where we're going to just get people pissed off at us and just have a little bit of fun. This is the last couple slides we're going to do. The most entertaining first round matchup. We all picked one. Charge, why'd you pick yours?
Yeah, so we've got War Tampa and Illinois. I can't remember. House of Pain. That's what it is. I'm just so excited for War Tampa. Like we said, we kind of talk about Matt all the time. I mean, you said he was like 13 years old, but he's really 24. And just the things he did this year with this team. I saw some blog said they had to merge this team because they weren't organized and struggling. That was the craziest thing I ever read, and so I don't read that one anymore. But Matt's just done a phenomenal job about keeping his core together and then evolving to this Auburn alumni team that just has so much steam. So I'm just really excited for Matt. I'm really excited for the Auburn fan base. They have come out in droves. He sold like 8,000 T-shirts now. He started with like 50, and he's up to 8,000 now. So it's just crazy. So I'm really happy for the fan base. But overall, I think it's going to be a great game. 16-17, obviously evenly matched on the seed lines. Illinois is a great team. They got Matt Mooney and Dom now. And so, I mean, the team looks a lot better than what it was a couple weeks ago. I think it's going to be entertaining. And, I really want to see this game. I'm just real happy for the Tampa 2020/War Tampa guys and their fan base.
Yeah, I talked plenty on this show, so we're going to skip my take because Mike and I share a game. So, Mike, tell the people watching why both of us think this Armored Athlete Power of the Paw game is going to be so entertaining.
Oh, I mean, Robertson, Dominique Jones, Caddy Lalaine versus Gabe DeVoe, Marquise Reed. To me, that's the game of the first round. There's no doubt. I think it's a pick 'em. I slightly lean toward Armored Athlete just because they've done this so many times. But for me, I think the tempo of that game is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be physical, but it's going to be fast. I agree.
Yeah.
It's going to be very fast. A lot of speed. Matt, your game, you picked the widest seat spread. I find that kind of fascinating. Are you the president of the Jalen Barford fan club? What's up here? I'm just curious.
Well, I need to see underdogs get some more people on their team page to feel more comfortable about this. But this is tournament basketball, and what makes tournament basketball so fun, particularly in March, is upsets in these first round games. I happen to think Big X is really overseeded, and underdogs scored 100 twice last year. They got a really fun backcourt to watch, and so I just think this has that upset potential, that sort of huge seed upset. So I just think it could, will be entertaining for me. What I like to see in bracket basketball.
Yeah. And Josh Brown pretty much, Josh Brown went on the record, said that this 24-team seed will win. So, I like Jackson. I like the story. I just get so nervous that it's riding so hard on Barford. And, like I said, they got roster spots to add. Hopefully we're going to see something that gets them a little deeper, because in 24-team field, they're going to need more than one guy showing up for this thing.
I'll add to that. It's almost good that they got in with a not fully built out roster, because now they're in and they have roster spots with a lot of guys that they might not have been able to get before this. And now they're just that much more appealing. So they could put their best team together by far.
That's a fascinating point. It's very conscious to mention it. Okay, now we're going to play a little bit of wish making. We all have things we'd like to see. So we talk about the Super 16 matchup you want to see. Slide, there we go. And the ones that came up are pretty interesting. Charged. Let's let Matt just tell us why. Again, if Matt, you're ready to go, why the Overseas Elite AA game is just so intriguing to you.
I mean, there's just so much talent on that, but also this is like a brawl. I mean, this game features some tough dudes. Dominique Jones, I just love his game so much. I love Caddy Lalaine. It feels like every year when I see Armored Athlete ad players, I'm like, damn it, that was the guy I was trying to get. So for that to be, the very first game of the tournament for the 4-time champ, I just think it's a fascinating matchup, and it's just going to be a brawl. This is two really tough teams.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Now, you picked an interesting one, Michael. Could you talk a little bit about this Brotherly Love Eberline thing that you want to see? I'm curious.
I love this matchup for two reasons. One, you may never see it again, because usually they seem to pick different regions. So just like the fantasy of them two playing is kind of awesome. But the way Brotherly Love plays, where they spread the ball out, they move the ball, and just against the sheer talent of Eberline Drive, to me, like, that's a fantasy matchup. I don't know how any basketball fan would not enjoy that game.
No, it's going to be a great game. Mine's the easy one. I've already hinted at it, and I hope Matt's watching, because look, and this is not disrespect. Every team in this tournament is elite. Let me be clear. If you're in the 24, you can walk out with the cash. So there's no jokes here, no weak teams. Having said that, they're playing on a home floor with no home fans. They're a little older. They're a little complacent. They won last year. And those Auburn teams like to get up, get physical, and get fast. They're young, they're dangerous, they got nothing to lose. I think this is a game that really, I think Carmen's a better team. I'll flat say Carmen's a better team than War Tampa. But if I'm going to pick an upset that I want to see, if I want to see that sort of, Golden Terriers over UVA vibe, that's what's going to happen right here. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and this could be another one of those ones we talked about, the buys. War Tampa's already in their training camp right now.
Doing box jumps.
Yeah, I would talk to Matt if every single player's there or not, but it looked like a pretty full roster in some of the videos I saw. And if they come out and gain some momentum and get that first round win, plus have the experience of the training camp and that first round game, yeah, if Carbons doesn't add, I would definitely agree with you on that. Could be dangerous.
Yeah, I think that game comes down to one thing. Does Aaron Kraft get in Walter Hodges' head?
This future doctor, Aaron Kraft, getting Aaron Hodges' head.
Yeah, right? He gets in everyone's head.
Yeah, he tends to do that. Okay, double-digit sleeper, which you define as a 10 or below seed that can cause some serious damage. That's where we wanted to go here. And I've already kind of gone into mine. And by the way, real quick, Jonathan, never mind. I'll do that in a minute. I've already talked enough about War Tampa. I'm really curious, Matt, can you talk about Brotherly Love for a second?
For me, the thing that really makes them a sleeper, there's good teams and there's a good path. And I think Brotherly Love hit that perfect combination of being a good team on a winnable path. I think Eberline, with all these new pieces, even though they're talented, they got a lot to figure out. And Brotherly Love has been figuring it out for the past few years. So I like them. I mean, a 12 seed and it's not like a super high seed, but I like them as a double-digit seed that could actually play for the championship, because I just think that they're on a winnable path. And I just like what I've seen from them in the past. And I like, the little bit they added.
And before I go to Mike for the underdogs, because I love that team, Charge, we got to give Jess some fan service. Can you hit that team? We both kind of lean toward this one as well. Armored Athlete, go ahead. Tell me why they're a sleeper.
And I see you in that chat, Jess. I see you. So
we're all about fan service here.
This is still just blows my mind that, we were talking about these guys as a bubble team just because of the situation, but I think they have all favorable matchups here. And no disrespect to Nick and Power to Pod. Like I said, I think that's one of the most improved teams year over year. Mike talked about their lack of depth last year. They fixed that problem. That team's looking really good, but I just think that guard play is going to be huge. They're really deep. Matt just talked about some of those guys, the Codys and the Katie's, and they're really, really good squad. And I think if they do happen, and all these obviously are hypothetical and they got to win their games, but if they do get past it, I think Overseas Elite is going to be one of those teams. We talked about why we think they could trip up a little this year. Then you got West Virginia TMT on the other side, and I think both of those are winnable games for Armored Athletes. I think this is a team that we're going to be talking about more than just the first, second round. We're going to be talking about them deep in the tournament.
Yeah. Now, Michael, let's go ahead. You picked obviously the double-digit-ist of the double digits, the deepest one. You win as low as you can go. We were joking with the underdogs on Twitter that they only had to bring one set of uniforms as a 24. You don't have to, so you can save your luggage charges. Why are they somebody to be feared?
Honestly, I kind of want to piggyback off something Matt said. He made a great point there. The path of what you have. And to me, Pod A, even though it has Ohio State, is a path where you could do a lot of damage. And, again, it's a house money team. Jackson, Tennessee is a house money team. When you have the best player on the floor, we've seen it for years in basketball. The best player on the floor can just carry a team to win. So I not only think they're going to win the first game, I think they're going to make it hard for a bunch of teams.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Barford alone can go supernova, and then talent around him can definitely make it happen. I've already talked about War Tampa. Matt knows. I already called my shot, so he already knows what's going on there. We won't waste any more time with that. Most underseeded, the most disrespect. No, that's the wrong term. The teams that, and this is there's a consensus here. So you guys can let me slip Stillwater first, and you guys can talk about Hines because all of you agreed there. I think Stillwater's really talented. I think at 21, they're at least 4 or 5 underseeded. I think that they have a lot of talent, forte shooting, Nash. They got a lot of big bodies, a lot of things they can run. So if you're going against them as because they're a first-time alumni team, I think that that's a valid thing. But I think the talent deserves a slightly higher seed. I think they have a slightly better roster than Mackey, maybe even the House of Pain. I saw us more as a 15, 16, 17 seed. And with that, please discuss why Kyle Hines' team is underseeded. Let's start with Michael. Your screen's up. What do you got?
I mean, it's a EuroLeague All-Star team, and they're seated 11th. I mean, does it need to go any further than that? And regardless if Kalithis and Hines play, I mean, man, there's so much talent. I had the privilege of watching them play their games in Greensboro last year, and they were a Final Four TBT team. I mean, 11, I imagine if I was to give an explanation for it, I would say that it's mainly because they were trying to force certain matchups in certain places. I really think in TBT's heart, they know Hines is not an 11 seed.
Matt, do you agree with that for the most part?
I mean, 100%. There are, European teams that would just kill, European GMs that would kill for this roster. And just what they have coming off their bench, you could make a team out of their bench, and they would be in this, and they would be a high seed. And so, I mean, it's a bummer that Hines can't play and Kalithis won't be in it, but they're just so loaded. I mean, everything they added, it's and now they head into it with a little experience under their belt. Even if not everyone's played in it, these people know what it's about, and I just think that's gonna really help them this year.
Charge, clean it up. What did they miss? What did our expert analysis we brought in miss?
No, they didn't miss anything. I think this is one of those ones where obviously the team looks a lot different without Hines and Calais, but I mean it's a good team. I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. They're going to be solid.
They're still loaded. I mean, I want to ask you guys one question about Hines because I was the one that picked him. And by the way, Hines is a great team, so it's not. I just didn't pick him for. I thought Stillwater is just grossly underseeded, but like losing Hines and Kalithis, losing the namesake and everything. Knowing it's an all-star team, it's not going to be a cohesion problem, but are they a team that could come out maybe flat? Will Hines be there? Will he be there in a supervisory role? Will they have, I mean, they're professionals. So I'm not talking about like pride or any of that crap, but like, are they going to have their sort of reason to etra? Like, are they going to be ready to go? I mean, I see Matt kind of has a look on the face like, what the hell am I talking about? Am I talking out my ass right now?
I'm just going over this roster again. I just think there's just so much talent. I mean, these guys have so much experience. I think they got too many shooters to come out flat, in my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, guys, let's not make any friends with this next slide. This is the most overseeded. Now, okay, just a disclaimer. Guys, we're gonna pick fights, and I'm picking 2 fights. The reality is like this field is amazing. So if you're mentioned as overseeded, it's nothing personal. It's just a reason we mention you. With that note, and they're all guys we like. Gentlemen, our visitors, our guest analysts who have done, by the way, an amazing job. Thanks for being on. Who wants to talk about Big X first? You guys were in agreement on this. I thought it was a pretty interesting. You guys, that was the first team that came to mind. A quality team, but over at 9, you say. Why was it the route you went?
For me, it was when I looked at 1 through 7, 1 through 8, I really found myself like, all right, I can't argue those seeds. They're all awesome teams. When I got to 9, that was the highest seed that didn't have success in this tournament the way that those other teams had. So I guess that was my logic behind Big X.
Yeah, for me, just I think that guard play, their guards and their depth, I just don't think they're on the level of some teams behind them. I mean, come on, over Hines, give any GM in the world either of these rosters. I mean, just look how expensive that Hines roster would cost you versus this Big X. And they got some talent. They have some talented front court players, but just 9 is, to me, And I thought they were a bubble team personally, and for them to be 9 is, but that just means they're going to go on a run and prove me wrong.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of this.
It always works.
Yeah, we're like, this team's really great. But the thing is, there's 24 good teams. So if we pick you most overseeded, you can probably bet. You should probably go to a gambler and literally put some money on one of these 4 teams, because they're probably gonna win the whole damn thing now. Charge, we all actually all love Everland Drive. We know they're a great squad. So it's not a question of quality. It's a question of just, they're just by that high of a seed.
Yeah, that's all it is for me. Obviously, I love Eberline. Matt's been a friend since 2016. One of the first people I met, following the TBT. Saw him play in Baltimore. Saw him play in Chicago. Watched some games with Matt last year in Chicago. And this was the only one. Like I said, I was kind of proud of our work we did on the bracket and how close we were to the TBT seeds. And this is the only one that I really said, "Whoa!" I'm like, 5. Holy cow! When I saw it come across the screen, I was a little bit shocked. We talked about earlier, if I knew the Hines thing was going on, I definitely would have bumped the Everline up to an 8. So I'm not saying these guys are not a good team by any stretch. It's just the 5 surprised me a little bit. I would have had them at an 8. All the points we talked about, a young team, everyone's kind of talking about it's tough to win as a young team. They're rebuilding. Still a question mark around the coach. Sounds like that coach may pan out, and that's going to feel a lot better than the situation. But that was the only one, because of the way I seeded it and had everything going, that surprised me. And it surprised me that they were a little bit higher than I thought they would be. But they're going to be great. Of course, if you guys follow us, JP McCure, new charge record, 90 steals. So he's going to be wreaking havoc out there, and Majet and Hannah's. And so there's just a wealth of just G League stars out there that guys I really enjoy playing, and I'll be a fan of Eberline again this year.
Absolutely, they're a wonderful squad, and both of my squads I picked as the 2 overseeded teams are wonderful too. But I wanted to be clear, is like, we talked about those bubble teams, and like, do Mid-American Unity and Heard That belong in this 24? They absolutely belong in this 24, but so do about 10 other teams, and there are a few that if I were picking, I would consider over them. Does that mean they don't belong? No. Does that mean you can't win a couple of games? No. Does it mean they can't compete? Absolutely not. But do you look at a Gale Nation? Do you look at a Jimmy V? Do you look at a Fort Wayne or an Iowa United or a Florida TNT over these teams? And I think you may not pick them, but you really have to have that conversation. I think that conversation really becomes very apparent with these 2 teams. Not that they don't belong, but maybe some teams might belong a little more. And I just pissed off Odd, who's a friend of the pie. He's probably going to slap me around now, honestly.
Yeah, those are really interesting ones. I think the Mid-American one is probably the one that people kind of head scratch. But, I mean, they have historically put in a team here and been very successful. But you got to remember this matchup against CP3. So you got the LeBron, CP3, Banana Boat matchup here in this pod. And LeBron was tweeting about Drew Joyce hitting a game winner last year. And so there's some juice to be had here. If LeBron gets behind this team and, get some mentions, that's fantastic. And then maybe he'll play. You never know. And then heard that matchup against West Virginia, and I can't remember who talked about it. I think, Mike, it was you talking about how well the TBT is protecting their brand. And if all the right things happen on ESPN, I think at least 21 of the 23 games are probably going to end up on ESPN2 or ESPN. A couple of them weren't listed yet, but it's really about, building the brand. So the people who didn't get in this year, the work that's going in, some of the tough decisions that had to be made long-term are going to benefit everyone who's involved in the TBT community.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Just to piggyback on that, I mean, we're huge TBT fans, and there are a lot of people. This thing has grown, but to get basketball on TV when people are just so desperate for it, this is a major time for the TBT's growth. So they really, I think, had to go with the storyline route, which I think probably hurt a lot of those teams that didn't get in, but Heard That did.
Yeah. It's a made-for-TV event, the Battle for West Virginia, and under that justification. And by the way, they are a quality team. Like, let's not downgrade them. They could walk in and they could slap West Virginia around. West Virginia's a quality team too, but Elmore's get hot. They get some size up front. They win by 20. We all like idiots. So it's quite possible. I'm not doubting their talent, but the brand thing's key. There's a lot of talent and there's a lot of opportunities for future events out of this. Okay, guys, it's time to put our money where our mouths are. We've analyzed, we've broke, we've invited Mike and Matt to help us today. And guys, you guys have been incredible. Thanks so much. Let's just let the picks speak for themselves. You might see some surprises now. The one thing that strikes me is we all picked the Golden Eagles. That strikes me as interesting. Like everybody's like, it's going to be Marquette. That's the one we all thought was going to happen.
Yeah, no, just looking at that one there, I'll talk about mine first, but talk about Pod B. I just think this Marquette team is just going to be amazing. Same guys back from last year, plus Darius Johnson-Odom, plus, like I said, I'm definitely on this guy's fan club. I think Rousey has just really done a great job developing into G League last year. I saw him in TBT last year and, was expecting a lot more out of him and just didn't see it. If that Rousey was there last year, that game probably would have been a lot different than what it was. And so I've seen him develop, really love what he's done and love this Golden Eagles team. Red Scare, we talked about that bracket, that this might be one of the easier brackets to work through. And I think Red Scare did some really nice upgrades with Tillman and Pierre, looks solid. Armored Athlete, I'm just going to be brief on them. We talked about them a ton. We just really like what they've done. And just one of those teams that as a fan and, someone who's watching these games can really get around. And last but not least is ALS. I just think there's too many unique tools on this team that is good. Can't go unnoticed. When you got Ware and Rice leading the guards, you got Stefan Branch, which is just a freak of nature. This dude does it all. He's going to shoot, rebound, steal. I mean, he just does everything. You got some nice bigs and Thomas and Gamble that are, just real versatile, can get up and down the court. Marvell Harris is so underrated. We've seen people, rave about him. And then just so many role players behind that. I mean, we haven't even talked about Sean Marshall, Deshaun Stevens. I mean, this team is just really, really good. And I think has some real unique parts. And when you put it all together, I'm feeling like they're going to be a Final Four, and my selection for this year's TBT 2020 champion.
Matt, you're really going for this European angle. I want to hear a little bit more about the TMT, how you have them win the whole thing.
I mean, it's I filled out a paper bracket, and that side was just a mess. I think I initially had Overseas beating Money Team. I went back and forth between Boeheim and Hines. I just kind of, I love the shooters for Money Team. I like storylines. I like a new team winning it. Plus, I've talked to Peyton Aldridge a time or two, so I kind of got to roll with my guy. Although I think a friend of mine may be joining Overseas Elite. So I don't know. I just have a feeling about him, and I think that's a heck of a sort of a first year team meets Team Fredette sort of comeback team. And they got a lot of TBT experience. So just kind of rolling with something new, but who knows I'm a fan now for the first time this year. I'm currently a fan of them to win some money. I could switch that. But today that felt like the move.
Now, we talked a little bit about Team LLS, and that's who also Mike. The only people that agree on champion are Mike in charge. Mike, you have ALS cutting down the nets too and cashing that Zell, not a check, a Zell. What makes that team so dangerous? Why do you think they're going to be the ones to walk out here with the cash?
I think to win championships, you have to have kind of like a perfect triangle of things happen. You not only have to have the talent, you have to have the defensive mindset, but you have to have the right chemistry. And when there's no fans in the arena and you're not playing off the juice of the fans, and you have a team like ALS that's playing for a cause that has the talent. I mean, Tyrese Rice is unbelievable. Like if you haven't seen Tyrese Rice play, you're really missing out. And like Charge said, Stefan Branch, I don't know why that guy's playing in Belgium. He needs to be playing at a higher level and fast. I mean, the way that they're built, they're long, they can shoot. Marvell Harris is always a problem. And in a short stint here, we have a 10-day tournament. The team with the most chemistry, I think, is going to end up being ALS. And I think that's why they'll cut down the nets.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And I guess to close out the conversation on cutting down nets, like I really Charge on me or pretty much agree until literally the very end of that last pod. I will say again, like I have the Red Scare coming out of the pod, much like he does. But if it's not the Red Scare, I actually have War Tampa coming out, not Carmen's. And again, Carmen's is a fantastic team. So If they want to use it as disrespect to make sure that they have some juice, by all means, because I don't think if they win the whole thing, it's not a shock they have before. But I just have a C. It's a comment.
I'm curious
go.
about something.
Go.
So none of us had overseas elite.
Yeah.
Coming out of Pod C.
Not a one.
And we all had.
They're going to hear about it too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we are.
The death threats are coming.
They own all of us at this point. So, but for me, I mean, my thoughts were that the guards on TMT and Armored Athlete are so quick and fast, and Overseas Elite is throwing out a couple of older guards. I mean, they need a stopper that's going to stop those guys. The speed could really be a problem for Overseas Elite.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely going to be a problem. And talking about speed, I mean, my pick was Boeheim's Army, and they've been my pick for a while. And just, I am fascinated by teams that can go 5 out. The whole idea of the geometry. I'm an architect by trade. I mean, we're all basketball guys, but I draw for a living. I draw buildings. The geometry of 5 out, the beauty of being able to bomb and cut and have an open lane, and the unlocking of that with replacing a guy in the rotation like AO or a guy like Work, who are very quality players, but then replacing a guy like Leiden, who shoots threes at like a 38, 40, 42% clip. You put him out there as a stretch 5, it unlocks a level of efficiency they haven't had before. They've always had these skilled players around a more ground-bound big or a more traditional big, and now they can play 5 out with Devendorf downhill and shooters around him. And I think if the shooting can hold, and they have plenty, I think they'll cut down the nets. I think it's quite possible that's what happens. But you can see there's so many good teams. I mean, anybody on the slide's a threat. I mean, if you're on the slide, you can walk out with the cash. And just real quick, here's the field one last time. I guess this is kind of our last slide. We're kind of closing up shop now. Some final thoughts. Matt, what for this tournament coming up, with this rebirth of basketball, is allowing us to get back to what we love. Like, what are you anticipating the most about this event? What excites you the most?
I mean, well, the last time I was watching basketball, I was in the Barclays Center, and it's like March, whatever. And 3 minutes before the game was canceled, and everyone was told to leave the arena. So I'm just happy to see tournament basketball when it was, ripped away from me 3 minutes before I was about to watch a VCU game. So I just think people are just hungry. No March Madness, first time in my lifetime. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited for a lot of people to experience TBT that still aren't familiar with it. And just to see the alumni, see just these European players. And I love guys like Joe Johnson getting in there. I like when you put a little NBA in here with this, because you can see like, all right, this is a guy from the NBA. He's been, multi-year all-star. But wow, look at this guy who's guarding him, and this dude's good, and I had no idea. And he plays in Turkey, and so I'm just excited for basketball fans to get this sort of broader picture of basketball, other than just like college or NBA.
Absolutely, and Mike, with this event coming back and bringing us back to this, like, what stands out for you? What can we all expect from this experience?
I'm actually going to go down a different road. I actually am looking at what is the future of TBT going to look like? Because I compared them this year to bubblegum shrimp. There's no sports out there. They're like the only boat that survived, and they're going to and basically reap the benefits of viewership. So the question is, where does that bring TBT in the future? If you've ever listened to interviews with John Muger, he wants this to be a $50 million tournament. This was never supposed to stop at 2. He wanted to always have a stronger vision for it. So to me, I'm more curious about what this does for the 2 to 3 year run of TBT than I am about this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we talked a lot about the opportunities that this will give all of us, because this community, I mean, this is a grassroots show. You guys started your team of grassroots things. John Mugar and his team and Friel and these guys have given us an infrastructure to build around. Like, It's their brand, it's their baby, but we are the people that are going to help hold this up and build it. And they've given us all an opportunity to make this better and better. I want to see Ram Nation again. I want to see Team 23 again. I want to keep doing this with Charge. And I think this is going to give us all opportunities to make this bigger and better together and be a real community of basketball going forward, which would be really beautiful. Thanks for that, Mike. Charge, final thoughts. We're getting out of here soon. So, like, what are you thinking about this? Like, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, no,
Wild
I think
event.
one of the things that had been on my mind once I saw this final 24 is just a shout out to some of the teams from the past. This is the first time we're not going to see the Broad Street Brawlers in the TBT. This is the first time we're not going to get our popcorn ready and rally behind Showtime. And so those are two of the guys that have been here every year. And, Sideline Cancer, Eberline are going to continue to carry that torch, but, miss those. And then a lot of teams who were trying to get in this year, it's only going to be the second time. Like Mike's going to be on only second time, Garrett from Fort Wayne and a few other teams. And so it's one of those ones, unfortunately, 24 teams, COVID did what it did. And, some of the history is going to be lost this year. But like you guys said, with the branding, July 4th, TBT is bringing the fireworks. I think the first game is going to be at 3 p.m. on the main channel of ESPN. So we're going to have the fireworks and pave a path for a much better, bigger, better TBT down the road.
TB 2020 will keep us all breathing in basketball in our veins. TB 2021 will be the even better one, the full 64. Guys, Matt, Michael, Ram Nation, Team 23, thank you so much for helping us out. You guys were so insightful. We really appreciate you coming on.
Glad to be here.
At that point, we're going to close it off. ZoomTheTBT, closing our first reaction. We're going to start doing team previews soon. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all soon.